Hello everybody, my name is Lovey Plaha. I'll be going over Appraisal Basics by Walt Huber from the Real Estate Principles textbook. So an appraisal is an opinion to the monetary value of a particular property at a given date. So basically there are no two parcels of land with its respective buildings on it that are exactly alike, so prices will vary due to that. The market value is what the property is actually worth, and the market price is what the price that a willing buyer will pay and a willing seller will accept. So that's referenced on page 351. I took that quote out from there. So essentially it doesn't matter what the original cost of the property was, but what the current conditions of the market is that determines current market prices and market values of a home. And so these are determined by a licensed appraiser. A lot of times appraisals are done by a lender, so a borrower or buyer may pay for an appraisal on a property intending to be purchased. And the value that an appraiser comes up with is defined by 4 different characteristics that they use, which include demand, so like the desire, need, and ability to purchase, the utility or usefulness of the property, the scarcity, so the supply and demand, the more in short supply it is, the more expensive it will be, and the transferability, the ownership changes. So Walt Hubert goes in to explain the different aspects of the appraisal process. One thing to note is that there will be a preliminary analysis that an appraiser will do to basically kind of give us a quote where they will identify, gather, and analyze data that's relevant to the property and include it in like an assessment report indicating what kind of tools, reports that they'll gather, and the costs associated with their service and the tools that they'll need to purchase. The example that they give is that Walt Hubert gives is that, for example, if the parcel of land has some that's situated in a place where it has water, they may need scuba diving equipment or underwater cameras to go in and take photos to do the assessment, or even need to bring in some sort of specialists that need to be paid for their work in assessing the property itself to provide the value. So there's 3 approaches to the identifying what that value will be. There's the cost approach, which is the cost to construct the new minus the accrued depreciation plus the value of the site. So typically this is used for new construction sites. Accrued depreciation in this context refers to deductions for physical deterioration, functional obsolescence, and external or economic obsolescence. The market approach utilizes confirmed sales of similar properties. Adjustments are then typically made for differences between subject property and the comparable properties. And then there is the income approach, which is based on the return of income to an investor. So meaning that the return of the original investment and a return above, such as from rent or interest. Walt Hubert then goes on to identify the differences between general data and specific data, where general data is understanding the different area, like the region, city, county, neighborhood, and specific data is specifically the lot of the property, whether it's like in a cul-de-sac, corner lot, key lot, a T intersection, interior lot, flag lot, and then describes the physical aspects of a lot. And all of these things affect the desirability of the home, then affecting the value. So those are things that they will also consider in valuation. The area measurement is also defined. They will measure the area, which we learn is the base times height, and divided by 2 if it's triangular, and then just adding those pieces together. So these are all really great things for us to note for the real estate licensing exam, with all of these descriptors that Walt Hubert explains to us. There's a bunch of principles that are explained as well. So the basic appraisal principles, I should say. So there's the principle of supply and demand, the principle of change, principle of conformity, principle of contribution, principle of substitution, principle of regression, where value goes down, principle of progression, where the values will go up. So there's a great deal to learn from this chapter. So there's a great deal to learn from this chapter, and this was all just the basics of the appraisals. So it's very useful for us to know how the appraisal process works, because it can affect the purchase of a property that we may be involved in as real estate salespersons or brokers. When we do the appraisals using the CMA data, we can keep in mind if anything specifically stands out to us that may be caught to affect the price of an appraisal when that stage comes, such as like the location, for example. If there's a house around the block that was recently sold that looks almost identical, we can identify that, or even just conversationally have that talk with the client or potential client that the selling price of their property may be different, more or less, based on just the desirability, as an example. So we should keep these concepts in mind to be able to make skilled decisions using our knowledge. And that's it for this chapter. Thank you very much.